First, I'd like to thank Sol for inviting me to do this presentation and for Lisa to organizing for organizing my presentation. The Make It Happen in the UK too. So it's a play on the Make It Happen in the Philippines campaign because I believe there's still so much potential in the UK market that we haven't fully tapped. And later I will show you how our ASEAN neighbors are doing compared to us. So let me introduce the UK market. We can't overlook the tourists when you talk about the UK market. So it's not just the population that we're considering, but also the 40.9 million foreign visitors who visited the UK in 2019, for instance, because they form part of the consumer market. Of course, the pandemic has kind of affected that sector, but the UK, I think, will be able to recover that because the vaccination program is going very well. So it looks like the UK will soon be able to open the country again to foreign visitors. We also have a market that has very high disposable income, so 29,600 pounds per capita. But it doesn't mean that just because they have a high disposable income that they're not very price sensitive, because they are. And I think it's because of the wide variety of choices that they have in the market that makes them more sort of sensitive to the prices. The interesting thing about the market also is it's very multicultural, multi-ethnic character. So probably it is a country where different cultures are embraced rather than made to fully assimilate. So you see this, for instance, in the food choices. You can like go to specific shops that sell Indian food, and more you find Asian stores that carry a wider range of products from the different Asian countries, including the Philippines. The UK is a net importer of food, so 45% of food is imported, and 26% of that is actually from the EU. That might shift now because the UK is out of the EU already. But it will still be primarily dependent on the EU for its imported food. The UK is also third in e-commerce globally. It's number one in Europe because it only follows the US and China as among the largest e-commerce markets in the world. So online shopping is definitely a big thing. So I think it was Deloitte Consulting which did a study that showed for when it comes to food shopping online, 1 in 10 consumers in the EU regularly shop online for food. In the UK, it's 3 out of 10. So let me just cite, so the total share of online retail among the channels now is 30%, and this is up from 20% in previous year. So while the retail sector went down in general, online shopping actually even increased. So in February, the latest figures show that 36.1% of retail sales were bought online. And by category, that's 11.9% for food. For household goods, it's 38%. And the highest is clothing and footwear, which is 57.6%. Another important character of the UK market is that it is very strong on private label. So about 40 to 70% of purchases of households are actually under private label. So I think on my slide, I showed there a sample of the yellowfin tuna steaks. These are actually from the Philippines, sold on private label to Sainsbury's, which is one of the top supermarket chains in the UK. So we can't talk about the market without first, looking at Brexit. And just to refresh you on the timeline, so Brexit actually happened in January 31, 2020. That was last year. It didn't just start this year; it started last year. But because there was no FTA yet with the EU and the UK, there was a transition period that was put in place, which ended in December 31, 2020. So when Brexit kicked in, the transition period began, and then the EU UK FTA started negotiations in March of last year. What's also important to note is that during this period, the UK tried as much as possible to finalize the transition of all the EU FTAs with third country partners into bilateral FTAs of the UK. So all of those have been transposed. So on December 30, 2020, the EU-UK Trade Cooperation Agreement was signed. On the same day, it was ratified by the UK Parliament. That's how excited they are about Brexit. But it still hasn't been ratified by the EU Parliament. So the transition period has been extended to April 2021. And hopefully Ben can update later if it's going to be ratified soon. But the UK still went ahead and completely exited from the EU on January 2021. So it shifted to the UK global tariffs, which are basically the MFN rates, which replace the common external tariffs with the EU. And then it also launched its own UK GSP scheme. The EU-UK TCA, meanwhile, started being effective on a provisional basis in January of this year. So Asik Alan actually explained the GSP schemes earlier, but I think what I just want to show is how simple the transition is. So the UK GSP is basically modeled after the EU GSP, simply because they didn't want significant trade disruptions. As much as possible, they wanted the transition to be smooth. So like for standard GSP, for instance, it's called General Framework in the UK GSP. And among our ASEAN members, it's Indonesia and Vietnam who benefit from this. Our scheme is the GSP Plus in the EU, which is called Enhanced Framework in the UK. And there's also the Everything But Arms, which is basically for all the least developed countries. And it's called the LDC framework in the UK. So among ASEAN, it's Cambodia, Laos PDR, and Myanmar, which benefit from the scheme. The submission of proof of origin is also very simple. So we don't apply the REX anymore. Instead, you can submit GSP Form A, as explained by Asik Alan. And the important thing to note is that this is under self-certification. So it does not require the signature of BOC anymore or any other certifying body. But I think so it's a very pretty straightforward transition. But I think what I want to remind everybody is that because the UK is not part of the single market of the EU anymore, so you have to be careful if you are transiting products from shipping to the EU, for instance, or an EU country, and then sending some of this to the UK. You have to make sure that you abide by the non-manipulation rule. So meaning you can only transfer products. You cannot repack them, for instance, from wholesale into retail packs. So the products have to stay as is. You can transshipment to the UK, but then you have to submit a new origin document that is required by the UK. So if they entered under REX, if you're transshipping part of them to the UK, make sure you issue a GSP Form A as well, or a statement of origin. Okay. Now, I think what's important for all of you to understand is what products have the highest potentials in the UK market. So to explain this, I'll try to do it in 3 different ways. So the first is what products is the UK importing from us and which benefit from the GSP scheme. So the good thing is that we have a very high utilization rate, so close to 75% of our products enter the avail of the GSP preferential tariffs. And our big ticket items like tuna, bicycles, pineapples, for instance, benefit a lot from this because in most cases, the tariff advantage is pretty significant. For tuna, for instance, MFN rate is 20%. So we get it at 0. And that probably explains why we're doing much better now than Thailand. We're actually the #1 exporter of tuna now in the ASEAN. We've overtaken Thailand on that. The other way to, yes, we'd like to encourage everybody to look at the GSP Plus to check which products. It's easy to find this online. Asik Alan gave the references earlier on which websites to look at. And you can also email us if you need guidance on how to check if your products will be eligible for GSP. I would like to emphasize, just like Asik Alan did, that there are still advantages that are underutilized, like GSP preference that are underutilized. And these are primarily in men's or boys' shirts. We're only utilizing 25% of that. And then for footwear, only 48%. For wristwatches, it's zero. And there are several other consumer electronics items and components for which we are underutilizing our GSP. So let's try to look at those and study the opportunity there. So the second way to gauge interest is by looking at the product queries that we receive in our office. So and these are the products for which we have also significant tariff advantages because of GSP. So number one is coconut. I think especially during the past 2 years, coconut milk was the most requested product from us. So as you can see, for coconut, and this, the interest actually runs the range of all coconut products. So there's coconut water, coconut oil, sugar, desiccated coconut, and all that. And the preference, the MFN rates are range from 8% to 16%, and we get zero. Of course, canned tuna, pili nuts are actually becoming popular as well as the more traditional, banana chips, freeze-dried vegetables, and then calamansi and sauces and mixes. But I think the best way to look at where the opportunities really lie is to look at the overall picture of what the UK is exporting and what how our neighbors are doing in that aspect. So this is not a very good picture. So it's not a good thing when half of CLMV is actually doing better than the Philippines. So Vietnam is the winner in the whole of ASEAN in exports to the UK at $6 billion. This is, by the way, in thousands US dollars, the figures. So it's also not a good picture when Cambodia is exporting far more than the Philippines. And these are primarily in garments, bicycles, and footwear. So that's basically what they export to the UK. So I've shown here the different products, actually, and where the Philippines figures, which of the countries are actually doing the best. So in this particular slide, for instance, you can see that we kind of lag behind our neighbors. You can also see how perhaps the cycle of production has shifted. So Thailand and the Philippines are doing a little more advanced products, while Vietnam, Cambodia, and to some extent Indonesia are still doing more of the traditional products. So at least in machinery and parts, the Philippines is number one. So the next slide gets a bit better. So where is that? For tuna. So as I said, we're number one now in the ASEAN in exports of tuna to the UK. So and for pulps fiber, which is basically abaca pulp, we're actually a major. So the UK major supplier. So the UK actually imported 68 million of this of abaca pulp in 2019, and the Philippines supplied 48.7 million of that. Okay, so given that, okay, Lisa will be sharing this slide, so I won't go over each of the tables anymore. You can study this on your own. But I think what's important now is to know, how do we now take advantage of the UK market, diba? How do we keep up with our ASEAN neighbors? I know there are a lot of problems that the Philippine export industry is facing, but maybe we can set those aside and really look at, understand the markets better. And I think one of the ways to look at this is to look at the trends. So what is going on in the market? How do we now suit our products, adopt them to be more suited to the taste, to the consumer preferences that are going on? So I've sort of put visuals here of the top trends in the UK market right now. So online shopping, as I said, the UK is very big on online shopping, and that trend is just going to go up. The pandemic actually has encouraged more people to try online shopping, and I think more people now realize how easy it is. So even in the over 65 years old, I think, let me just check. I have the statistics here. Yeah. So in general, in a survey done over the last year, 87% of adults have now shopped online, have tried shopping online. And then among those over age 65, 65% already know how to shop online. So large supermarkets, physically going to the store is still the preferred thing, but it went down from 60 plus percent in 2000, 68% in 2013 to just 50% now. So the share of online shopping really in the overall retail market is growing very much. So home delivery is a big thing. Even restaurants are doing fine dining meal kits, for instance, during this pandemic. But what's also interesting to note are subscription boxes, for instance. So like Philippine snack products could be part of subscription boxes that are being offered online. So these are like consumers can subscribe to them on a monthly basis, for instance, and sometimes you get a surprise package. So it's sort of good to get Philippine products into that mix. What I want to emphasize also, because online shopping is big and because online presence, the penetration rate actually of internet in the UK is 96%. So people are actually very, very much online in the UK. So it's important to maintain online presence. I think for most of our exporters, I think a lot already have websites, but I would also encourage some social media presence. So even if you don't have an e-commerce platform yet, it's better to make your products and your companies visible online, because some consumers actually just do a search and then some buyers would go to us because they saw something online. So it's good to at least, get your products out that way. And it's not a very expensive way to market your company. So I mentioned earlier that the UK market, the UK consumers have a high purchasing power, but they're also very cost conscious. So this logo price match guarantee, for instance, this is what the UK large supermarkets are doing to counteract the growth of the discounters. So there are a lot of discounter chains, Poundland, for instance, that are growing in popularity. And what the big supermarket chains like Tesco, Sainsbury's, Waitrose do is that they will match the price if you are able to find it or buy it cheaper anywhere else. So that's the only way they could compete with huge discounters that are now growing in popularity. So being very price conscious, the UK consumer use their purchasing power actually to sometimes make a statement or to support causes that they believe in. So foremost is sustainability and the environment. So frozen foods are actually becoming more popular. So beyond the convenience, frozen foods are seen to be a solution to food waste, because when foods are frozen, then you can use as much as you need. And unlike with fresh vegetables or fruits, for instance, like if they ripen too much, then you have to throw them out. So that's not a problem with frozen food. So beyond the convenience, it is really that concern that there's less wastage on food when you talk about frozen products. The other attractive quality of frozen fruits is that these are normally frozen after harvest. So you get the products when they are in season, even if they're not in season anymore. So you get the best of in-season products, even if they're out of season. So the other common trend right now is plant-based. So plant-based is in food, it's in cosmetics, it's in drinks, and it is again a growing market because it's not niche anymore. Whereas plant-based food, for instance, before would only cater to vegetarians. Now the bigger market is actually of flexitarians. So it's people who eat anything, but sometimes they opt to eat plant-based food because either they want to help the environment or also they want to adopt more healthy choices in their lives. So one of the exciting brands actually that just entered the UK market is called Beyond Meat from the US. So they did a market test first of their burgers, the burger patties that are actually plant-based. And it did so well that they're now launching nationwide. So they've signed up with 400 plus retailers all over the UK. So it's a market that's only going to grow. So in 2019, the UK meat alternative market was valued at $490 million. So it is expected to hit $727 million by 2025. So I think that the Philippines definitely has a potential to be part of this market. And this is something I think we should, especially our food exporters, probably would like to study, because this is really only going to grow. Because as I said, it's gone mainstream already. It's not just, for a niche market of vegans or vegetarians anymore. So again, coupled with the frozen foods, with the plant based, being conscious about sustainability and being conscious about health, free from is another important trend in the UK. So it's not just gluten free anymore. It's not just sugar free anymore. It's free from any possible allergens that could hurt people. So even if your products are not free from allergens, for instance, you have to declare very clearly in the label what allergens they contain. So you'll have to specify, for instance, even if they don't contain nuts, that they were processed in a facility that processes nuts. So there's this growing awareness now that people need to be protected from allergens that could be in food. So the other way that people are helping the environment is in packaging. Sustainability in packaging is very important. So I used to think before that this was just sort of a fad that people say, okay, we're supporting sustainable packaging and all, but it's really very much ingrained in the consumer. So you would see product reviews, for instance, that a consumer would say, this is a very good product. It tastes very well, but the packaging is plastic, so I'm not going to buy it anymore. Or it uses too much packaging, so it is wasteful and all that. So there is a growing, the consciousness really for a plastic-free packaging is growing right now. Supermarkets are moving away from plastics as well. So it's probably good to consider that when you think about packaging for your products. So, and then the last, zero emission. So the UK, 2030 is an important timeline, because that's when the UK will fully shift to 100% zero emission vehicles. So this presents an opportunity. We need to get into the e-vehicle supply chain, definitely, for the UK and Europe, because those will be the biggest markets for e-vehicles, for instance. And then we're already in the supply chain for bikes. So maybe we should look at the supply chain for e-bikes in the UK as well. So these are just some of the trends. As I said, we're happy to be engaging with you. We're happy if exporters come to us and say we need help with the UK market. Of course, we cannot promise immediate results, but we will try our best to connect you with the right buyers for your product and provide you advice as well on how to navigate the market. So, even as we're making it happen in the Philippines, let's make it happen in the UK too, and we'll be happy to help you. Thank you.